They didn't fire me because I was incompetent. They fired me because I was too expensive to keep. At least that's what they told the board. 1 month after building the most powerful AI prediction engine in our industry, I was escorted out like a thief. No farewell, no severance, just silence. But what they didn't know is that the engine wasn't finished, and without me, it would collapse. I didn't scream. I didn't sue. I just waited, quietly, patiently. Because sometimes the most devastating revenge doesn't come in flames. It comes in silence. And I had already lit the first fuse. My alarm buzzed at 4:47 a.m., 12 minutes before it was set to go off. My body had developed a rhythm of its own, one that knew the market in Tokyo opened at 5, and that data never slept. I sat at the edge of the bed, blinking into the dark, then reached over for my tablet. Overnight patterns, spikes, anomalies, all as expected. I tiptoed past my daughter's room, careful not to wake her. I paused at the doorframe, opened the baby monitor app, and watched her small chest rise and fall. My wife stirred behind me, half awake, murmuring, "You working already?" I nodded, though she couldn't see. "Just one last check. I'm fine." She sat up and reached for me, her hand landing on my wrist. In the soft blue glow of the monitor, her fingers looked like threads of silk. "Ethan, you promised you'd sleep tonight." I kissed her forehead. "Just tonight. After this project, I'm done. I swear." She exhaled, turned away. I didn't blame her. This wasn't the first time I'd said those words. I headed down to the living room, poured myself a black coffee, and opened the console. The new neural net was almost stable. It had taken me 14 months and 81 all-nighters to get to this point. This system, if deployed correctly, would cut risk assessments from 3 days to 3 minutes. The board would eat it up. Investors would bow. My family would finally see me again. And yet, one number blinked red. At first, I thought it was a formatting error, a simple data parsing issue. But the variance column showed a spike too significant to ignore. I cross-checked the code, then the input stream, then my own sanity. I found the culprit, a single logic gate triggering on false positives in emerging markets. Not a crash risk. Not yet. But given time, it could burn everything. I flagged the anomaly and created a separate log to patch it manually after the investor demo. No time to panic now. I needed this pitch clean. A glitch, even minor, could shift perception and sink the whole deployment. I promised myself I'd fix it by Friday. No one else needed to know. At 10 a.m., I walked into the boardroom, wearing the only suit I owned that didn't have coffee stains on the sleeves. The CTO, Adrian Walsh, gave me a nod. We'd built this system together, or at least I thought we had. He was the first to believe in me, back when I was just a back-end engineer with too many ideas and not enough filters. "Big day," he whispered, clapping me on the back. "You ready?" "As I'll ever be." The presentation went smoothly. Investors were impressed. The CEO smiled. The room applauded. I was told to expect a significant package after the product went live next quarter. Everything felt earned. That night, I got home before 9 p.m. for the first time in weeks. My daughter was still awake, drawing stick figures with capes. She said one of them was me. "You fly with data powers," she declared proudly. I laughed and hugged her. "I like that." My wife smiled, a rare softness in her eyes. "Maybe now we'll get to see our superhero at dinner more often." I wanted to believe her, but the next morning, An unexpected calendar invite appeared on my phone. Restructuring review, mandatory attendance. The subject line felt sterile, cold. I stared at it for 5 long seconds, trying to breathe. At 2 p.m., I sat across from HR, Adrian, and the COO. The words came quickly. Budgetary constraints, overlapping responsibilities, strategic pivots. Adrian didn't meet my eyes. The COO slid an envelope toward me. Your position is being dissolved. We appreciate your contributions. I was numb. The system wasn't even live yet. I forced my voice to stay calm. You're firing the architect of your flagship engine. For efficiency? The HR rep nodded. This isn't personal, Ethan. That night, I didn't eat. I sat on the couch while my wife paced in disbelief. You didn't tell me things were this bad. You should have said something. I didn't know, I whispered. They used you. You gave them everything. I opened my inbox and found a single email from Adrian. Subject, thank you. Body, for everything. Best of luck moving forward. It felt hollow, like a generic farewell from someone who had already deleted me from memory. I hovered over the archive button, then paused. What if it wasn't a formality? What if he knew about the bug? I stared at the screen, heart racing. 100 lines of code and 1 line of betrayal. I reread the message, my hand frozen on the mouse. Who had sent the invite? Who knew about the flaw? And why did Adrian look so calm? There was something off, something wrong. And somewhere deep inside, I felt it. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The apartment was too quiet. The kind of quiet that made every tick of the wall clock feel like a hammer. I sat alone in the kitchen, a lukewarm mug of coffee untouched in front of me. My wife had gone to bed after trying and failing to pull words out of me. Our daughter, thank God, was asleep. I stared into the dark, eyes fixed on nothing, heart fixed on everything. My inbox pinged. It was 12:03 a.m. Subject, they lied to you, sender, unknown. No introduction, no sign-off. Just one line. They've been planning this for months. You were never meant to stay. Attached was a file labeled Chum I partial log scan. Zip. I stared at it. Index finger hovering over the trackpad. Every instinct screamed caution. It could be malware, phishing, a cruel joke. But a deeper instinct, a louder, colder one, whispered back. You already know it's real, don't you? I double-clicked. Inside were logs, fragments of internal Slack chats, snippets of project management tickets, emails I'd never seen. My name came up too many times, not with praise, with planning. If we offload EC before Q3, budget stabilizes. Replace him with someone off contract, outsource the rest. Make sure he doesn't take the engine with him. My stomach flipped. I leaned back in my chair and pressed my palms to my eyes, hard enough to see static. They had been coordinating my exit even while shaking my hand. A clock chimed somewhere in the apartment. 3 chimes. I'd been staring at that file for hours. I copied everything onto a flash drive, tucked it inside an old children's book on the shelf, and turned off my laptop. But my mind wouldn't shut down. The next morning, I skipped coffee. My hands were already shaking. I took the subway into the city, blending into a sea of office workers with tired eyes and tired souls. I wasn't sure where I was going, until I found myself in front of my old building. I stood across the street, watching employees file in. I recognized faces. Most didn't see me. One did. Jacob, a junior dev I used to mentor. Young, sharp, awkward. We hadn't spoken much since the layoffs began, but now he walked straight toward me like he'd expected me to be there. "You shouldn't be standing out here," he said. I raised an eyebrow. "Good to see you too." He glanced over his shoulder, then back at me. "Can we walk?" We turned the corner, heading toward the park. Jacob kept glancing around, nervous. Then he handed me a folded note. Inside was a burner email address, a series of file names, and a line that stopped me cold. They doctored the audit logs. "You can't prove anything unless you know where to look." I looked up at him. "How do you know all this?" His voice dropped. "Because they did the same thing to me. Different reason. Same method. They made me rewrite a module, then blame me when it failed. I was weeks from getting my equity. And now you're helping me. Why?" He paused. "Because if they get away with this again, what's left for the rest of us?" We sat on a bench. Jacob pulled out a USB and slid it into my hand. "This has a log backup from the DevOps mirror. It's encrypted. You'll need the key. I'll email it later. Use it right, Ethan, before they bury it all." I nodded slowly. "Thanks." He stood to leave, then hesitated. "One thing. We may not get another chance. If you want this to stick, you'll need proof from someone inside, someone still in." "And you?" I asked. "I'm already half out. I just haven't been walked to the door yet." I watched him disappear into the crowd. I hadn't noticed until that moment, but the sky had darkened. Rain threatened from the edges. That night, I opened the files on a clean machine. Jacob hadn't lied. Real logs, untouched timestamps, backdated code comments. If someone ever audited the system from the front, they'd see a clean build. But this was the scaffolding, the cover-up in progress. I started taking notes, mapping names, timelines. Who approved what? Who stood by? Who watched in silence? Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I opened my voice recorder and started speaking. "My name is Ethan Carter. I was the lead architect of the predictive engine you're about to hear about. What I'm about to describe is not conjecture. It is fact, backed by internal records, timestamps, and first-person accounts." I paused. Outside, thunder rolled faintly. "Not because I want revenge," I continued, "but because this can't happen again. Not to me. Not to the kid who comes after me. Not to anyone." I looked at the USB. "Let's begin." My phone buzzed. New message. "From now on, use encrypted channels. We're not the only ones watching. Jacob." One line beneath it. "We can trust each other." Right? The article went live at 7:12 a.m. sharp. I didn't send it directly. Jacob's contact had a connection with one of the most trusted investigative tech reporters on the East Coast. Anonymous source. Verified data. Limited risk exposure. But the story was unmistakably mine. Leaked logs suggest predictive AI system at FinNext manipulated for profit. The screenshots were damning. Audit trails, suppressed errors, internal chat snippets with names redacted. Barely. They didn't use my name, but anyone in the industry would connect the dots. Within the hour, FinNext's name was trending on every finance board and subforum. At 9:35, a screenshot from the article hit Reddit. By 10 Sash, the post had over 4,000 upvotes, and a wave of speculative sell-offs began. At 11:12 a.m., FinNext stock dropped 9.6%. By 1 p.m., the board released a statement. "We are aware of the false allegations being circulated. We will respond through the appropriate legal channels." False. I watched it all from the floor of my apartment. Legs crossed, laptop glowing in the dark. My daughter had gone to school. My wife, still unsure whether to feel pride or fear, had taken the day off to clear her head. She didn't ask where the leak came from. She didn't have to. But I wasn't celebrating. Not yet. The leak wasn't everything. It was bait. Just enough to get attention. Not enough to burn the entire house down. My phone buzzed with a withheld number. Anonymous voicemail received. I hit play. "You think this makes you noble?" A low voice sneered. "You have no idea what you've started." I replayed the message twice, trying to trace the tone, the accent. No luck. Could have been anyone. Could have been Adrian, or someone higher. By evening, media speculation had morphed into frenzy. Someone on Twitter posted side-by-side shots of our system's predictions versus real-world market responses. The gaps were staggering. The public didn't need a full confession. They needed a villain. And FinNext had just become one. Around midnight, I finally exhaled. It had worked. The first crack in the dam was visible. Then someone knocked on my door. 3 sharp knocks, not loud, but not casual. I froze. Every light in the apartment was off except the one in the hallway. My wife had gone to bed. I hadn't told her I was expecting anyone, because I wasn't. I stepped softly to the door, heart pounding. "Who is it?" I called out, voice steady but low. No answer. I looked through the peephole. No one. Not a soul. I waited 30 seconds, then slowly turned the knob, opened the door an inch. A flash drive was taped to the door frame. No envelope, no note, just the drive. I pulled it off, closed the door, locked every bolt twice. The file on the drive was a single video clip, unlabeled. I clicked it open. It was grainy, clearly from a conference room security feed. I recognized the setting instantly. FinNext's Level 3 internal strategy room. No phones allowed. No recordings permitted. Yet there it was. Adrian, the CEO, and 2 board members. The CEO was mid-sentence. "Remove the original weights. Simplify the model. No one outside the company will understand the delta. The risk won't show until Q3 at the earliest. We'll be long gone by then." Adrian didn't protest. He nodded. The others laughed. It was damning, irrefutable. I checked the metadata. Time-stamped 3 days before I was terminated. This was it. The smoking gun. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I barely blinked. The next morning, I scheduled a live stream. Private link. Anonymous handle. Preset to go live at noon. 10 minutes before airtime, I set up my laptop on the kitchen table, positioned the camera, made sure my voice was steady. When the stream began, I didn't speak my name. I didn't need to. I showed the clip. I played it twice. Then I said 3 sentences. They silenced me. They doctored the truth. But data remembers. The stream ended at 12:05 p.m. I closed the lid. The internet exploded. Within 20 minutes, tech reporters across every major platform were dissecting the footage. Legal analysts speculated. Former employees began anonymously commenting, confirming timelines and behaviors. Then the CEO went on live TV. "This video is clearly manipulated. We are pursuing legal action." But that wasn't the twist. The twist came 2 hours later, when someone from inside the company leaked the full camera footage from that room. A second angle, same day, same meeting, same words, but this time a 4th person was visible. Sitting in the corner, silent, watching. A woman, hair tied back, tablet in hand. Badge just out of focus. She never spoke. She never moved. But the camera caught her face, just once, just clearly enough, for someone to identify. She worked in compliance, internal audit. She'd been there the whole time, and no one knew what side she was on. By dawn, the dam had burst. FinNext's name was everywhere, not just in business columns or tech podcasts. No, now it had bled into mainstream news, late-night talk shows, political debates. It had become shorthand for betrayal, corruption, and the danger of unchecked AI. The footage I leaked had gone viral, stitched into TikToks, overlaid with dramatic music, and shared by influencers who didn't even know what predictive modeling was. I watched it unfold in silence, hunched over my laptop, the blinds drawn. The company issued a second statement, this time without denial. We take these allegations seriously and have initiated a full internal review. Too late. The markets don't wait for reviews. By mid-morning, 4 institutional investors had pulled out. Shares plummeted 22%. A rumor started that FinNext's main banking partner was reevaluating its credit exposure. That alone was enough to trigger mass withdrawals from retail investors. Panic isn't rational. It's viral. By noon, Adrian Walsh, the CTO, my old mentor, released a shaky video on LinkedIn. I made mistakes. I trusted the wrong people. I should have stopped it sooner. He took the blame. Fully. Voluntarily. On camera. But never once did he say the CEO's name. Not even a whisper. I played the clip 3 times, scanning for a hint. Anger, fear, coercion. But all I saw was a man cornered by a storm he helped summon. Whether he did it for a deal, a favor, or just fear, I couldn't tell. But he was shielding someone, and it wasn't me. The comment section exploded with both sympathy and scorn. Some called him brave, others a coward. I felt nothing. Not rage, not vindication, just cold. I stared at the screen until my phone rang. No caller ID. I let it ring once, twice, then answered. A deep voice, unrecognizable. You've made your point. Silence. You think this is justice? I didn't reply. The voice continued, low and deliberate. You've made enough enemies already. But if you want to burn the whole thing down, you'll need a bigger match. Then the line went dead. I sat frozen, phone still to my ear, heart drumming in my throat. Bigger match? What did they mean? Who were they? I stood up, moved to the window, pulled the curtain back an inch. Nothing unusual. No black vans. No men in suits. Just a city pretending it wasn't on fire. I turned back to the laptop and opened the encrypted folder Jacob had given me weeks earlier. There were files I hadn't touched yet. Names, shell company breakdowns, flowcharts of acquisition trails so convoluted you'd need a forensic accountant and a month of caffeine to untangle them. But now, I had motivation. At the center of it all, buried deep in layers of paperwork and misdirection, was a name I hadn't seen before. Carthbridge Global Holdings. Not a tech firm. Not even an AI. They were an old, powerful investment consortium with reach across multiple continents. But they'd been funding FinNext from the shadows since Series B. No official ties. No press releases. But the money trail was undeniable. Carthbridge wasn't just a backer. They were the architect. That explained everything. The pressure to deploy early. The insistence on scaling before the engine was ready. The silence from board members. Even Adrian's sudden shift in behavior. They weren't just managing risk. They were orchestrating it. The CEO, Michael Thorne, had always come off as calculating, confident. A man who didn't flinch under pressure. But what if he wasn't steering the ship at all? What if he was just the latest captain handed a sinking vessel and told to smile? I dug deeper. A leaked internal memo surfaced that afternoon, posted anonymously to a whistleblower forum. It was short, unsigned, but damning. We will proceed with the Phase 3 rollout despite the current noise. Public sentiment is temporary. Institutional dominance is permanent. Disruption is not a threat. It is a tool. Disruption. That was how they saw this. Not a scandal. Not a collapse. A tactic. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. The puzzle had changed. I wasn't fighting a company anymore. I was fighting a doctrine, a philosophy that viewed destruction as evolution. My phone buzzed again. No number. Just a link. A video file. Downloadable. I hesitated. Could be a trap. Could be a key. I clicked. It was footage from what looked like a corporate off-site retreat. White marble floors, panoramic windows, everyone in designer suits. Champagne. Laughter. In the corner, seated casually, was Thorne. Next to him, a man I didn't recognize. Tall, silver hair, European accent, speaking quietly, but with authority. His name was never mentioned, but the caption on the video said it all. Carthbridge director, unofficial. At one point, the man leaned in and whispered something to Thorne. The camera caught only fragments. He won't stop, not unless he's made to. Thorne nodded, then looked up, straight into the lens. He saw the camera, and he smiled. I paused the video there, rewound. Watched that moment again. That wasn't fear. That was calculation. They knew I was watching. They wanted me to. I sat there, breath shallow, pulse steady, a new kind of clarity forming. This wasn't about me anymore. This wasn't just revenge. This was war. And I had just been invited to the next level. I uploaded everything at 3:37 a.m. The entire archive, logs, video clips, internal memos, chain of command maps, encrypted correspondence, off-the-record recordings. Everything Jacob, the unknown compliance officer, the anonymous hacker, and I had gathered over the last 6 weeks. The file was titled The Ledger. It wasn't just a data dump. It was curated, narrated, layered with context and digital breadcrumbs for the public to follow. A story told not through headlines, but through code, timestamp, and betrayal. Truth disguised as a case study. The link went live on a decentralized sharing platform, immune to takedown requests. Within minutes, it was mirrored across darknet forums, whistleblower sites, and peer-to-peer repositories. I didn't promote it. I didn't need to. The world had already begun asking questions. By dawn, an independent cybersecurity firm in Berlin published an analysis of the ledger. They verified the hashes, the integrity of metadata, and the origin of each log. Their verdict was short and brutal. This is not fake. This is not partial. This is systemic. The German press picked it up first. Then came the Swiss finance dailies. Then Brussels. Then The Hague. By midday, the European Commission issued a public statement. We are deeply concerned with the revelations implicating multinational control over risk modeling infrastructure. A formal investigation will follow. I stood in my kitchen, holding a mug of coffee I couldn't drink, and watched a live broadcast in German. Subtitles racing across the screen faster than I could keep up. The journalist was standing outside the headquarters of a major European pension fund, one of Finnec's clients, one of Carthbridge's biggest channels. They weren't just shaken, they were furious. A notification flashed on my phone. Unknown user. It started. Keep your family away from screens today. I stared at the message. Then I replied, Who are you? 3 dots blinked, then vanished. No response. A second notification. An email this time. No subject. 1 line of text. We've seen the videos. Thank you. He would have been proud. No sender. My hands trembled. I hadn't told anyone about my father. Not even Jacob. Not how he was fired at 53, blackballed after exposing embezzlement at his firm, and died 2 years later from a heart attack no one saw coming. He never got vindicated. He never wanted to. He just wanted to do what was right. This was for him. The moment should have felt triumphant, like an exhale after months of holding my breath. Instead, it felt silent, like something vast had been set in motion, and I was just one cog in its turning. I turned off the TV and walked to my daughter's room. She was awake, legs kicking under the blanket, scribbling something in a sketchbook. When she saw me, she smiled. "I made a new version of your superhero." I sat beside her. "Let's see." She flipped the page. A capeless figure stood on a rooftop. Instead of lasers or fireballs, his weapon was a book, and above his head floated a storm of glowing data. "I gave you lightning powers," she said, "but they only work when you tell the truth." I swallowed something tight in my throat. "That's a very powerful power," I said. "Yeah, but only if you're brave enough." I didn't correct her. Later that night, I kissed my wife gently before bed. Her body finally relaxed. She hadn't slept well for weeks, but tonight she seemed light. Not because the fight was over, but because we weren't alone anymore. At 11:15 p.m., Jacob sent a message. It was a photo of a paperback manuscript with my name on it. The title, Truth in the Time of Fire, a personal account from inside the algorithm. "I think it's ready," he said. "Even if you don't publish it, you should keep it. One day, she'll read it." He meant my daughter. I thanked him. Then, a second message arrived. From Jacob again. But this time, no pleasantries, no formatting. Just, "I never told you everything." I stared at the screen. Another message followed before I could type a reply. "There's someone else. Someone I didn't think mattered, but now I'm not sure. He was watching us the whole time." I typed, "Who?" Jacob's reply took longer than usual. Then it came. "The intern who was reassigned right before your project went live. He had access to the backup models. He was never on the books, and he's vanished." I scrolled back through our project logs. No name matched. No ID, just an innocuous IP that pinged the server a few times during testing, always in off hours. I never noticed it before. Jacob sent one final line. "He's not working alone, and I don't think Carthbridge controls everything anymore." I stared at the blinking cursor, then at the ceiling, then at the window. Somewhere out there, someone had been watching us. Not to stop us, but maybe to study us, to learn, to prepare. The storm wasn't over, not even close. The foundation opened its doors on a gray Thursday morning, inside a modest office above a bookstore on 16th Street. We didn't have marble floors or a launch party, just 5 desks, 2 laptops, and a shared mission. To give people like me, like my father, like Jacob, somewhere to go when the silence becomes too heavy. We called it Signal Route. The name came from an idea Jacob and I tossed around one late night. Every truth starts as a quiet signal, buried beneath noise. Our job was to listen harder. In the first week, we received 24 emails, most anonymous, some desperate. One written in broken English from a woman in South Korea whose company had falsified medical trial data. Another from a former military contractor, afraid he'd be followed if he spoke. We didn't promise salvation, just that they wouldn't be ignored. 2 months later, I was invited to speak at a university. The auditorium wasn't full. Most students just wanted extra credit, but a few stayed after to ask real questions. One girl in a hoodie asked, "Didn't you ever want to just forget?" I told her the truth. Every day. But the only way forward was through. The crowd didn't clap. They didn't need to. That wasn't why I was there. Back at the office, I returned to a full inbox. One email stood out. It was from a name I didn't recognize. But the domain was corporate. Big. A major financial software provider in Europe. The subject line: "Help us stay clean." Inside: "We've studied what happened at Fin Next. We don't want to be another story. We want to be the example. Will you consult with us on ethical frameworks, external audits, and transparency protocols? We want to build it right." I read it twice, then once more. Not because I doubted it, but because I didn't. They meant it. They were asking for help before it was too late. Before the leak. Before the lawsuit. Before the shame. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I walked outside. It was spring. The air crisp and honest. I passed two teenagers arguing over something on their phones. A delivery driver playing jazz too loud from his van. Life had resumed. Back at home, my wife was in the garden. My daughter was painting rocks to look like animals. I watched them for a long time before stepping inside. The email sat open on my screen, cursor blinking beside the draft reply. Sometimes, legacy isn't what you leave behind. It's what you start in others. That night, I read the final draft of my book out loud to myself. Alone in the office, pages rustling under my fingers, I spoke the words as if someone was listening. Maybe they were. The last page simply said, "You may not change the world with truth, but you will change someone's." 3 weeks passed. Then came the unexpected, an email. No subject, just a short message. I never got to apologize. I was young, scared. They offered me a position, and I said yes without asking who it cost. I know now it cost you everything. I hope it's not too late to say I'm sorry. It was from him, the one they hired to replace me, the one I never blamed. Not really. He had been a tool, like I had once been. But the difference was, he got a second chance, and he chose to use it. I replied simply, "Thank you. That means more than you know." No venom, no victory, just closure. That evening, my daughter climbed into bed with a stack of picture books. "I want you to read me the one you wrote," she said. I chuckled. "It's not really a bedtime story. But it's about heroes, right?" I paused. "Sort of." She nestled under the blanket. "Then I want that one." So I read it to her. Slowly, softly. She didn't understand all the words, but she listened. Carefully, like the story mattered. At the last page, I closed the book and looked at her. "You know," I said, "I'm not a superhero. I don't fly. I don't fight. I just told the truth." She blinked up at me, her eyes wide. "But you're my superhero," she whispered. I felt something warm break inside me, a kind of peace I hadn't known I was still missing. The world outside was still spinning, still broken in places I couldn't reach. But here, in this quiet room, with her small hand wrapped around mine, something felt whole. Before I turned off the light, she asked one last question. "Daddy, will you help more people?" I kissed her forehead. "Yes, sweetie, I will." She smiled, then turned over and drifted into sleep. I stood there for a moment longer, watching her breathe. And I thought, maybe that's the real legacy. Not the files, not the articles, not the headlines, but one small person in one small room who believes you're brave.